Hi there, Jonathan here. How you going? I was just staking and tying some Miro trees in the Misty Acres native plant nursery we have. They're a little floppy when they're young, so they need some good support to get going in their bags. They're interesting. They've got a few names. Well, they've got one name. They've had a few names. When I was an apprentice back in the 80s, they used to be called Podocarpus ferruginea. They then changed to Prenopotes ferruginea. Now I think it's probably just this year I see they've changed to Pectinopotes ferruginea. So they kept their ferruginea, but which genus they fell under has constantly been changing. I think there's been one or two other names too, possibly earlier on. So yeah, common names are handy. However, the botanical names do work better if you're trying to discuss or order or converse with people, and especially if you're across countries where common names change with the areas. At least a botanical name will always be the botanical name. Of course, Miro is a lot shorter to say than botanical name for this particular one, so it's a good time to use it. I've got a few jobs I was going to do today, a couple of little jobs, so I thought I'd take you along and we'll go and have a look at them, and there might be a couple of ideas for you, or spark an idea for you of things that you need to do around your place. It's a little cooler today, so I got my woolly hat on today. You'll probably see me always wearing a hat, big one when it's sunny, woolly one when it's cold. So I think we're just under 9 degrees today, which isn't freezing, but you do have to keep moving to keep warm. So let's go and see what we can do. We'll have a nursery tour in another few days, maybe a nice sunny day. I'll take you for a trip around the nursery. So the first little task we're going to do is I've got these birches. I've got a few of them around the property that I put in back in September last year, and they were about 3 feet high when they went in, like a good birch. They've grown. They're probably 8 feet high now, which is fine, staked and tied. But some of them I've put in as multi-stemmed, so I've got lots of stems coming from the ground so that when they grow, they're not just a single trunk. Some of them are single trunks, but some of them in areas like this, where it's sort of a woodland area, they're going to spread out. So what I want to do is hold the branches out, because they're all going a little bit vertical. And the same around this side, if you can see these as well. There's quite a few branches. I've got 4 in total, I guess, the main one and 3 others. I could clean some of the little branches off the bottom too, but that's not really an issue at the moment. So what I want to do is just hold those branches out. So I'm going to use these, which are called pigtails for electric fencing. Unfortunately, for what I'm going to use them for today, they've got the white insulation plastic on them, which doesn't look so nice, but I figured it was the easiest thing to tie to, since they've got the loop already and I can tie to them. So we're going to put it around. In fact, maybe I could loop it around the whole branch. No, I think I'll tie it. It's a bit easier if there's wind and movement. So I stab them in the ground. Just got some material tie, fairly cheap stuff. It'll last probably, well, I need them on till maybe the end of summer. I think they'll hold by then, or they'll stay on as long as they need to stay on, basically. So I'm just going to tie them out to where I think they're about right. And like I say, unfortunately, I've got the white plastic on them, but for the effect I'm after, I'm willing to live with that. I think it'll be easier than trying to use a straight stake and try and tie to that. And also running a wire or a cable or a string to the ground gets problematic, because the pegs pull out and all sorts of things like that happen. So that one's not too bad. We'll try one on this side. So you can pull this one out here like this. Put this where I want it. I guess I could put them on a bit of an angle as well, which will give it a bit more bracing. Double up my tie, and we'll put that around about there. Yeah, that's probably not too bad. I have to be careful with this one because there's a path right here, so by the end of it all I don't need it going out over the path and getting in my way. I won't pull that one quite as far, and I'll just do a single strand for that one, make my string a bit longer. And I've got one more on that tree that I'll do, just get some more tie for that. Just got one more out the back of this tree that I'll try and do the same. Trying to harness nature. I have used weights with in a little sort of a cage. I'll show you those. I used on my my Japanese cloud tree. They're quite effective, but I think the weight I'd need to pull these down would almost be a rock that would be too heavy to carry, or at least, yeah, just not worth it. Yeah, there we go. So hopefully you can see. I'll bring you a little bit closer. Yes, there we are. Stretched them out, bent them out, holding them in place. So you can see they're all coming off that centre one. So as they grow, they'll be a multi-stem tree. Like I say, a lot of those little ones will be cut off, which I'll do over the next few weeks. I've got a few more of these to do, and I'll show you the hanging basket weights that I've done on some of the trees. This is my Totra Matapuri Blue, Podocarpus Totra Matapuri Blue, my cloud tree up in my scholar's garden. But I've got these weights on some of these branches, so I grabbed rocks, suitable sized rock, made a little netting cage and hung it up, which just gives this branch a little pull. If I lift the weight of the rock, they go back up a little way. Some are heavier than others, some are further up the branch than others. There's another one. It's actually got a tassel on that one because when I'm walking with the sun in my eyes and I'm looking down, or I've got my hat on, I bumped my head on it. It wasn't sore, but it was annoying, so eventually I put a tail on it. Same with this one here. So they just keep that constant weight on the branch, and they help it train it to grow there. The other system I've done, which you might be able to see in here, so I've got a piece of dowel with a piece of rubber on it, and I've put that around the branch just to help spread it off the tree, because the branch is too short and too stiff to have a weight. It wouldn't have held it, but just a brace between it. Probably a year or two. I think I've been on there maybe since about, well, it'll be getting close to a year, I guess. The other option, if you've just got small branches, is I used a piece of rubber on this maple. So it's not particularly stiff. You can see I can sort of bend it, but it was just helping to hold those apart. And that's been on there for 6 months as well. In fact, when I took it off, it wasn't doing so much, but I'll leave it till it leaves out another few months. But that's another option, just to splade the branches a little. So the other little task I had in store for us to do today is I've got 2 terracotta pots which had Hymenocallis advance bulbs in them, which flower over summer, and they were in our white garden and they've well and truly died down, so I remembered them and thought I'd better go and empty them out. They've been in these pots for I think maybe 3 or 4 years, so I'm picking they've really multiplied. I don't know what I put in the pot. It could have been 1 bulb. There's definitely more than 1 coming out. So I'm going to separate them. We'll give them a wash and I'll let them dry, and then they can be replanted again next year. A few little ones in amongst there. Not quite like grape hyacinths where you get thousands and thousands of little bulbs. Yeah, I don't think there's too many more in there. I'll double check as I throw it away later. Throw it somewhere around in a hole that needs filling. I've got another one of those pots down here. They haven't gone rotten, which is a good thing. Can often be the case when you forget about your bulbs for a little bit too long. But they've been alright. They've come up each year. But I just think it's time to have a look at them and spread them around a bit. They're quite wet on the bottom. They're at a very shady part they were in. There you go, look at that for a good pile. So you can pull them apart if you get roots coming with them like that. If it looks a bit dubious that they're not going to get any roots, I tend to leave them behind. It's not that I'm short of bulbs, is it? So if you've still got summer bulbs that you haven't taken care of yet, go and get into it now. It's not too late. Could have been done earlier, but it's not too late. Not sowing for a while, and like I say, these haven't gone rotten, so nothing is lost. So we'll give those a wash and I'll show you how clean they come up. I just wash them to get all the soil and stuff off them, which helps them dry out more. But we'll go and do that now. I just rolled them over, give them another hose on the other side. Just helps them dry out, not go rotten if they don't have mud and soil and whatever on them. I pulled out 3 big clumps from the same garden yesterday, and they were probably the size of a volleyball when I took them out. When I put them in, they would have been 1 or 2 bulbs at the most. So as you can see, they cleaned up really good. So I just leave them on those racks and I'll just put them in our barn and let them dry out just in the air. They're not in the sun. Probably a week or 2 until they get in my way, and then I'll put them into a tray, sort of some kind of container, and just put them somewhere dark out of the way till I sow them, ready for next summer's flowering. Lastly today, I thought I'd show you these pavers I made. I needed quite a few, and it was far more cost effective to make them than to go and buy them. So I used a mould mixed my concrete, oxide, and made 214 pavers. If you needed 1 or 2 pavers, or maybe even 10, 20, you'd just go and buy them. But I was needing 200 and something, so I made my own. So this is what they look like. That's sort of a rough finish. However, when I take them out, I lay them upside down. So that's the finish of them when they're. That was the bottom, and now that's the top that I walk on. So it's got a nice round edge on it. Those have got black oxide in the recipe, so it's like making a cake. You need builder's mix, you need cement, and you need oxide. You can get red, you can get all sorts of colours. I just use black. I won't show you samples of what all those things look like. I'm sure you're probably aware, and if you're not, if you go to one of the big hardware shops or landscape yards, they'll all have the cement, the builder's mix, and most of them will probably have some coloured oxide, at least black, and they can even tell you how to do it. But basically you mix it up. I spray the inside of these with oil. You can paint it with any kind of oil thing. You need it to stop the paver from sticking. The reason I use these were trays of about that high that I just got from a supply shop. I cut them down to just 2 inches thick, because that's how thick they need to be without reinforcing to walk on them and not break. But they've got the nice rounded edge in them, which, like I said, as you take them out and turn them over, you get a nice rounded edge on these, so you don't get a sharp edge that cracks or breaks or cut your feet. So you put them in there, screed them off, and then just go and lay them on somewhere flat, a table like this, on the concrete, on a trailer deck, anywhere you need to put them, and let them dry. I covered mine with a sheet of plywood to keep the sun off them, and I made 12 of these, so I had 12 every 4 days. So it took me, well, approximately 12 every 4 days. So it took me pretty much March, April, May to make them, which was getting a little tedious at the end, but well worth it for the price, like incredibly well worth it. And also you get a bit of a sense of achievement, and you can get what you want. They're sort of a different shape. You can't buy that size either. Usually they're square or a smaller rectangle. So yeah, it's good. I got these containers because they have these sort of ribs along the side, you can see. If I turn it that way or that way. So they just helped it stay a little firmer and not bow too much. I put them up tight against each other as I lay out my 12 trays to try and hold the sides from bowing out. I was laying mine in my glass house, which we'll have a look at another day, and I left gaps between them, and I've put pebbles because I wanted it better for drainage as well. So the slightly splayed sides weren't an issue, but you know, they're not splayed very much. You could put them up tight, and you possibly have to use some pave sand just between them, or you could grout between them, but they'll only need laying on as a paver, which is normally on sand. I laid mine on gap 7 once again in the glass house because I didn't want any washing away or anything underneath if I have a hose going. Yeah, so there you go. You can make your own pavers. It's pretty easy, not terribly strenuous, not too hard. These pavers are the ones I made. There's some of them that I made for a path up through this new garden. They're just laying on gap 7 or crusher dust, whatever you like to call it, wherever you come from. Basically just small, very small gravel. I wouldn't worry about using them on sand on here, and I definitely wouldn't worry about mortaring them down or concreting them down. So casual little path through a garden. It's going to, there's going to be lots more plants all along here, so it's going to be a sneaky path, and it'll just be a little walk through. So it's not designed to be a highway, but could be if you were to set them possibly a bit firmer. These were some concrete ones that I also did one other time. They're a lot thicker. They were for a different place, but I moved them to here. They were big round concrete ones, they're quite heavy. But then they're good and solid. Bit more mulch to go in the garden there yet. Well, that's a few little tasks done, and a little show you of how I made the pavers. Thanks for joining me today from middle of the North Island, New Zealand. If you got a chance, get outside into your garden. If you can't get out in the garden, maybe some other walk in the bush or nature. Get your feet out on the lawn. If you can't do that, find something on YouTube or on the TV and get a little bit of nature. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time. Bye.